Hi there.
Welcome to TownHall Overwatch, your weekly podcast for all your news, esports, and more. Hello, everyone, and welcome here to episode number 10 of TownHall Overwatch. I'm your host, Solid Jake, and this week we are once again joined by my co-host, Sp0h. Ask Joshy is out, and the legendary SirScoots. Welcome, guys.
Hello.
Hey, Jake. Scoots.
All right, so let's just hop on in with the introduction. Scoots, for anyone that doesn't know you, what's the rundown? How do you quickly explain who you are?
It's Jake. My name is Scott Smith. I go by SirScoots. I've been gaming all my life. I turned 50 this year, to give you an idea. So all my life means all the way back to Ataris and handheld football games on school buses, etc. All the way through PCs, big PC gamer, big into esports, big into Counter-Strike. Been in esports and Counter-Strike since about 1999, on and off. Have worked and owned pieces of large media companies like GotFrag and GotFrag TV, so did a lot of the early video broadcasting of Counter-Strike and esports. Also worked at MLG with you, Jake. We know each other from MLG back in the day. Actually, that's how I also know Sp0h, back in the day of World of Warcraft tournaments and MLG, and then EG. Then I was a team owner. I was one of the owners of Team Evil Geniuses and Good Game Agency. And most recently, I freelance. I'm no longer attached to any of those things, and I can be seen occasionally hosting Counter-Strike analysis desks around the world for various tournaments. And on my own stream, I stream here on Twitch, Scoots After Dark. Here's my ad. There it is. There's my studio. Welcome. Thanks for having me. And I happen to play the shitload of Overwatch these days. It is my game of choice right now, so it's probably why you've asked me on. So yeah, so there you have it. That's the quick rundown. But yeah, I've been around the esports side of video games for a very, very, very long time. Very
cool. We'll dig deeper very soon. But Sp0h, what's new, buddy?
I need to get myself a virtual studio desk. That's awesome. I just been playing a lot of Overwatch, playing a couple of the some of the weekly tournaments and stuff. That's been a lot of fun. Watching a lot of tournaments this weekend. There's a lot that went on. There's a lot to watch. So if you had any interest in, for those who have any interest in competitive Overwatch, there's definitely a lot of content to go through. So that was great. It's nice to see the opening week open with a bang.
Yeah, and I have to say I'm super impressed too with all of it. Like you said, super successful launch weekend, not only for the game but for the esports events, because the viewership was impressive. We'll be talking about that a bit later in the show. We're going to start out talking a little bit more with Scoots. Of course, has a very powerful background in esports about Overwatch. Then the spectating in Overwatch, basically the pros and cons of what we've experienced from watching tournaments and watching the game in general. Rule sets. We saw two very different rule sets this past weekend with the events that happened at Esports Arena and Take TV. And then we'll be going through the results of those events with our esports coverage. But Scoots, I want to just kind of open up and talk to you about the game and where you see it going, because obviously you said we met each other working on StarCraft 2. And then, after StarCraft 2, what was the next esport that came out from Blizzard? That was Heroes of the Storm. Guess what? We worked at Heroes of the Dorm together. Yeah. Even Hearthstone we worked together at BlizzCon with. But here's Overwatch, their newest title. Even in the early days of Heroes of the Dorm, when they had just announced Overwatch, that's all you were talking about. And you were really excited for the future of that game, but do you still feel that way? You said it's your game of choice, but where do you see it as an esport?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely, I think I've shared that story with you, that when they first reached out to me to do that first Heroes of the Dorm, I absolutely thought they were reaching out to me for some secret Overwatch project. And I was like, because they wouldn't tell me, right? Until I actually, had a few conversations. And I was like, oh, this isn't Overwatch related. Oh, here's the Storm at the Dorm, college. Oh, cool, okay. Anyway, so, I definitely am all over playing it. So it's kind of a divide for me. So right now I'm definitely, as a gamer, enjoying the shit out of this game as a player, playing it on my stream, playing it off stream, playing by myself. Not quite as fun as playing with a bunch of people on some sort of voice comm or even using their in-game, which is really good voice. But even solo queue is not that bad, really. It could be far worse. And that's what I've concentrated on that. But what I haven't really concentrated that much on, especially since it launched, because I had family in town this last weekend, is more the esports side of it. Because I think much like any esport, it takes a long time to really figure out what it's going to be like. So, and I'm not. I'm more looking at it as a fan looking into the esports of Overwatch, not as someone who wants to actively be involved in it. So maybe I'm more hands off on it, right? Because I'm not. If I was probably interested in producing stuff or directing stuff or being talent or, getting into the esport and and not just being a fan of watching it, I probably would be paying way more attention to what's currently happening in that scene, if that makes sense, right? Like I watch Counter-Strike every day. I'm watching it right now. Sorry to tell you. E-League's on. So I know we're going to talk a lot about the esports side of it, but I certainly haven't been a super duper fan of it and a student of it yet. Although I did watch a bunch of tournaments during the betas, and I've watched a little bit this last weekend when my family wasn't around. Not of Takes TV, unfortunately, I didn't see any of his. I watched a little bit of the esports arena. So to answer the question, I'm really, really excited to play it for sure. I think this game's got legs. I think it's going to be a go-to game for me and a lot of people for a very long time. And I think a game like this needs a lot of people playing it to stay good and entertaining for a lot of people, especially when they add competitive back and all those things will help, separate who really wants to play for fun and jump around and who really wants to work on when you're playing with 5 other people winning. And the top of that would be the esports, the pro side of it, right? The bottom of that is me just wanting to play matchmaking and get ranked, but play with like-minded people that don't pick silly stuff. But somewhere along the way, you got to let the casuals play their silly stuff, or else how do they have fun and play and learn? You can't go play AI and stuff. So what I am concerned about, though, I find a big rift for me, and this is, I guess, the meat of the discussion for me today, is absolute exhilaration and joy playing the game, and absolute disdain and anger and like I want to break shit when I'm playing the game. When I get killed by a Genji or a Tracer, that's good. That's okay, right? If you have both emotions in a video game, if you get so excited when you get a kill or you pull something badass off with your team, or when you get rat fucked, those are obviously equal. Like love and hate are very similar, right? So you get all that in this game, right? It's very frustrating, but it's very rewarding. Esports side of it, watching that, I have not felt that as a viewer yet. And that's what really will engage and lock in an esports fan, is feeling that sense of thrill and excitement in those moments, those clutch plays. And it matters, especially when you're more of a casual player or maybe not even a player of the game, to be able to translate that, and a kid who watches Overwatch who maybe never plays it somehow gets that excitement, right? Like, again, you can sit people down and they can watch some Street Fighter, they can watch some Counter-Strike, and other games to a lesser degree. And I think you can explain to an outsider kind of what's happening. And then if they see someone make a crazy shot, if they see someone's health bar get absolutely destroyed by a guy who's just beating the shit out of the other guy, they kind of get, oh, fuck, he's good, right? And they get a little engaged, right? And I don't get that engagement yet. And that's not the caster's fault or anything yet. They're all learning lingo and what to call shit and how to call shit. That's all too new to worry about. I think a lot of it has to do with the tool set that they have to use, right? And I think it's a big point of discussion. How do you make the proper spectator tool for this kind of game? It's not like Counter-Strike, but it's like Counter-Strike. It's not like a MOBA, but it's like a MOBA, right? So, yeah, and I guess you start with what Blizzard's put before us, right? And a long rant. If you've never seen me on a talk show, I can talk for days. So,
let's just summarize that.
An easy interview.
Number one, you're saying it's all about player base. Having a big player base, the games can succeed as an esport no matter what. That's been tried and true with other titles.
Yeah,
I would agree with that. But you love playing it. You think it's exhilarating. You think it's great. But really, the spectating is where we need to correct, find that emotion, deliver that emotion to the viewers. So this is something we've talked a little bit about on the show in the past, and we've come up with ideas, like you mentioned, the picture-in-picture third-person view, kind of just hovering around, showing that fight from a second angle, just to give the viewer a little bit more information. But that doesn't necessarily help with the emotion of the game, right? It doesn't help you feel like, that player just got completely decimated by a really high skilled Genji or whatever. How do you think they can better convey that kind of information?
Well, I think one of the biggest things that they can do is Blizzard can pull out and develop a fully functional Spectator UI and tool for observers and tournament organizers and stuff to use. I think that's one of the biggest things. It's one of the biggest things that's missing. I think is missing in the game for competitive. There's a few other things, but we'll just touch on that.
Okay.
And I think, and to draw a correlation to Counter-Strike, because Scoots was talking about earlier, and he's heavily involved in it, is that you can see when people make those, it's 1v3, and you can see, one CT is trying to decides he wants to make a play to retake the bomb site, kills all 3 people, defuses the bomb. You get to see those kinds of, or just see really clutch plays from people, and you can things aren't always, just because someone's, it's a 1v3 situation doesn't mean the situation is unwinnable. Right, someone can still pull out that clutch play, and then everyone's going, "Oh my God, I can't believe he just did that! I can't believe he just made that shot." And there are plays like that you want to see. You want to see that the roller coaster of highs and lows in the game. The suspense of, okay, what's going to happen? Can this team really pull this off? And we have seen plays like that before. One that stands out in my mind was actually I think towards the end of closed beta, and it was. I remember it was Cloud9. I actually don't remember who Cloud9 was playing against, but I do remember that it was Kai was on a Hanzo, and he actually managed to. It was on overtime, and they were at the second point in King's Row, and I think they were defending, and he was on Hanzo, and he pulled out a 1v3. He literally just killed all 3 of the other team, and then managed to continue to.
He kept the push going.
To push the payload, to keep the match going. It's things like that that are really, really interesting. I mean, Sp0h, talking about Cloud9, Sp0h a play too, where he, a really nice play where he took out 2 McCrees with his Genji play. It was like a really sick reflect, and he managed to take out one McCree and then take out the other. And it's things like that make the game, really interesting. It's like, wow, that was a really amazing play, but it's also being able to capture those plays. There's 12 players total in the game, and you can only spectate one of them. So it's like, okay, well, which one of the 12 players? Any of these 12 players could be making great plays, but you only get to see one of them. So it's like in Counter-Strike, I want to draw another question to Counter-Strike here. Is when you're watching Counter-Strike, you can kind of see the play develop a little bit. It's a little bit, it's more tactical, and you can, people only have one life. People aren't getting res. I want to say there's less going on, but you're able to capture. I feel like you're able to better capture those.
I think there's definitely no. I think in some regard, like we can only hold up Counter-Strike so much against Overwatch, and maybe we can look at GoTV and some of the tool sets and how they use the display information, because I do think the game itself, it lends itself to being easier to understand because it absolutely is slower paced, and it's 1 life per round. The rounds reset. So the bigger question is like this game type is a frenetic 6-on-6 deathmatch. So each life is worth so much less, but at the same time, like you just said, a play that has a 3-player wipe, a 3-on-1, and he kills those 3, and his team can get back behind him, they could turn the corner with that payload and actually win because of it. But somewhere along the way, like we can't put too much in this. It's like Counter-Strike, because I think in some regards Counter-Strike is much easier for a commentating crew to set up that it's a 1-on-3. Oh, you can see he's creeping around. He's going to try to plant the bomb. Oh, they've got him locked off. But I mean, like it's never like there's too much respawning. And again, right now, part of that Spectator tool problem is we got nowhere to go. We have no overall mini map that we can pull up to look at the entire battlefield to see that. Like, for example, if you had, and again, I think we talked about this off camera, and I think a lot of people have talked about it on the forums and on Reddit and everywhere. Like, I don't think you need a mini-map to play the game. I'm not missing that as an element in a UI to play the game. Don't think it's needed for these maps. Not a big deal, especially once you play the maps a few times. And especially when you got Widowmaker and wall hacks and shit. Like you don't need a fucking mini map with icons moving behind fucking walls and shit. Like you got enough.
Of course.
But if a Spectator, and not even maybe not a mini map for Spectator, because again you got to figure out the UI and where it would fit. You already got a lot going on that screen. But a big map like you have in Counter-Strike that pops up that has it's almost full screen, right? Then you could have, Reaper icon moving around. And now when I kill those last 3 and the observer pulls up that mini map because there's no more action, and you see that there's like 4 icons alive and everybody else is grayed out and dead. Now you see the impact of the field I just cleared, right? Because you can't see that necessarily any other way.
That's cool, and it tells story too. Like it helps the viewer understand that these people,
you
the
throw a
payload is
telestrator
at
on
this
it.
point. The payload's trying to travel down this route. Very intuitive to look at, and you can see exactly where they shut it down.
And you definitely use it during the pregame, like you said, pregame, like during the countdown when teams are bouncing around in their spawn. Well, the casters pull that up and they go, "Hey, if you've never seen, whatever, Elios, let's walk you through it. We're starting on this. These are key points. Blah 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 blah." Now, again, the difference in this game to Counter-Strike is Counter-Strike has a natural lull every couple minutes. It's intentionally the rounds reset. You either win, you lose. The time runs out. They re-rack. They go to their base. That gives casters a time to get reset. If you're at an event, it gives you time to show the players, to show the map, and kind of everything re-racks. So you don't. In the current way you play this game, like you don't have spawn timers that like lock everyone down to a spawn timing. So you don't. There's shit always going on. Now, is there some lulls? Yeah, when you watch some matches, there kind of is, but there's also always some kind of front or back or some sort of action happening somewhere in a pro level Overwatch game, either on the payload or around. There's 2 flanks going on. So when can you sneak that mini map in? Certainly pre and post and in between stuff, but mid game, can you pop it up? If there's a big battle and no one's dying, do you pop it up so you can see all the little icons around? The payload moves.
I'm even just thinking from a production standpoint to have that permanent observer slot that's just sitting on the minimap, so you can just watch the action. You have dedicated observers watching for the Genji flanks, watching for the Tracer flanks, et cetera, et cetera.
Absolutely.
And that's just going to make the actual spectator experience seem that much more fluid. Even if like that's not something that's like inherently like shown on screen like often or whatever, the information is going to end up getting displayed by the production team.
And it's exactly how it's used in Counter-Strike too. Like it's not necessarily used all that often on a broadcast, but there's room for it. So it's snuck in whenever it makes sense. And again, when that thing pops up, what it doesn't do is the rosters still show up and the money's still there and the guns they're holding. So it doesn't necessarily kill the other information that the fans need to see when they see the minimap pop up in Counter-Strike. But what all observers do, and what we even did at Godfrag TV, which kind of spawned all this, knock on Alchemist, Wood, and gang, is a dedicated observer needs a minimap. Well, it's not even, no sense to call it a mini-map. They need the map pulled up on their own screen because that's absolutely how they see in Counter-Strike the big picture, right? Because the small mini-map that everyone else sees is great, but there's numbers on the icons and numbers equal players, and you just hit number 1, you go to Olaf, etc. So like that's a really good thing, especially on maps with different levels. So like that's a must, and that gets to another thing about this game in general is games that are complex like this, FPSs like this. Like Counter-Strike now, to properly show, to even show StarCraft, to show less to show overhead games. You need more observers and you need more bodies in your production to do it. Certainly you do at LAN, but you also kind of need to do it online. So that makes everything more expensive to show this as an esport. To properly show this game, you need multiple observer clients going to put that little package together, to bounce from third person, to bounce inside Tracer, to bounce to the mini-map. Right. You can't be rotating all that with one PC probably effective, right? So now you've made the cost of, running the esport of Overwatch a little bit more expensive. But again, you go to any mid to top level Counter-Strike broadcast, and certainly at LAN, is all like 3 observers, maybe 2, maybe 4, multiple rigs, sometimes multiple people. So, but that's how you have to tell the story properly. You need cameras, and these are our cameras, right? And again, a game like Overwatch would be great if you can go to Kings Row. Okay, we want a preset choke camera over here, and we want a preset choke camera over here, and that's number 1, that's number 2, that's number 3 for me. So now I'm the operator. I can bounce over the first point. I can bounce up over spawn, because I preset that shit, right? All those things. Like you said, so like a badass Spectator UI, and I would say, don't lock it. Like truly give the tool set to the audience to move it around, because you all as broadcasters and casters and people making content and doing weekend cups will figure out the best place to put all that shit. I don't necessarily think the best place to put the rosters is up here. I think it should be over here. Now, for two reasons. I'm used to that for Counter-Strike. It gives you a little bit more room next to them.
Right.
Because not much happens over here. But in this game, especially Overwatch, a lot happens up there. Right? The verticality. So don't cut anything off up there.
Interesting point.
And again, move it over there. And you've got left and right. And because up there, you like if I look left and right, I'm still centered on the sport. If I have to look up and left and right, you've kind of taken my eyeballs really away from the action versus left or right of the action, right?
That's actually a really interesting point. Oh, sorry.
Maybe you could make them a little bigger because like they're small and like and again, if we look at Blizzard's first tool to this tool, this is much better. Right? They're Spectators.
Not even comparable.
So, the fact they moved them up there and the overlay doesn't step on the overlay of the first person now and all those things. That's why they moved it up there. But I think again, if they opened up, what was Forecourt Jester was the first guy actually messed with the hero shit first, right? Mm-hmm. He kind of made a UI before there was a UI, if I recall, for that game, right? Because he was able to pull the data. Is that accurate, Jake?
Ollie was doing a lot of it too. Forecourt made a draft UI.
Gotcha.
And Ollie made a in-game UI.
I guess the easiest way to put it is the community took some of the assets and remade how to show the game competitively. Right.
I mean,
so maybe if Blizzard let some of their, again, you can't really go mess with GoTV either, right? But you can get in there and mess with fonts and move some stuff around. Like Turner's made stuff a little bit more TV safe. They've moved stuff up a little bit, but they've kept it pure. But again, things like that. But it still doesn't solve that guy just dropped, Azari just dropped an amazing ult. We kind of caught it, but I didn't get the excitement that he just killed 3 people and they got the cap. It doesn't matter where you put the players, right? It doesn't necessarily solve how do you capture such a frenetic 6v6 with an objective. How do you transfer that? The play feel to the watch feel to make it engaging enough for enough people to watch.
I feel like that burden is on the commentators, honestly. I mean, I really do. As commentators and everyone starts to get more of a feel for the game, and as people start to play more and more of the game, they're going to understand exactly what that resource cost and how much effect you should expect to get from that resource of spinning an ultimate. And that's just going to translate on its own. The game's young. I mean, this player base is really young.
Well, and that's one thing. That's one thing I think. We talked about this off camera. Like we've seen games come out and try to be esports too quick or try to be esports focused when really, no game has esports legs until the community enjoys the game long enough to play it competitively long enough to really turn it into their basketball game and come up with a rule set. No developer can jam an esport down your throat. They just can't. It doesn't work that way, right? Even League started with not Riot throwing events and other people figuring out rule sets and all those kind of things, right? Before they grabbed it and made the LCS. So, and again, we've seen Shootmania, we've seen Evolve, we've seen Titanfall, all these come out decent FPSs or not, right? But they never got legs under them to then go, let's make them an esport. This one's certainly going to have legs under it as a casual game, no doubt about it, and with a ladder and all those things. So again, I think to your guys' point, we have a lot of time to figure out maybe how to tell the story properly because we're all still figuring out how to play the story, right? On a low level as well as a high level. Blizzard's still making it. We don't know what their competitive mode's going to be like. But again, I like everyone's experimenting with rule sets and stopwatch, pure stopwatch, or point systems and all that. I do agree. I think it does start with casters. I'm not too worried about who's casting now. I'm not going to sit here and go, well, that was casters last weekend. Boy, they were great. Or those casters, it's too early for them. It's too early for everybody.
Even for the level of play, it's gonna just keep going up. I mean,
yeah. I just don't know. Genji, for example, is such a badass character when he is a good one and a tracer. But how do you translate that to a kid that can only is watching at home and I only see bits and scraps of that? When you're playing against that tracer, that chick is devastating you, man. You feel that for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, right? And again, I don't know. That doesn't necessarily translate the exact same way to Counter-Strike either, right? You're not playing. You're not getting shot with an op. So, but maybe it's just easier to tell the story.
Well, you're playing as the winner, right?
Yeah. How important do you think it is for there to actually be stats, right? Right now, we don't really have, any kind of graph or stats or anything.
I mean, And this is where there's no rift for me. Like, I don't like that there's not extensive. I don't like that there's no scoreboarding game. I don't like that they've taken a completely different philosophical route with the information they give us as players while we're playing, after we're playing, etc. Like, I absolutely want a scoreboard and figure out. Like, I know that you don't want me to look at a scoreboard and see a Lucio or see a Mercy and not have a lot of kills and get mad at her because she's not supposed to have kills. I get that. Like, I know it's situational, but you know the situations, and we'll eventually all be smart enough players to know what good stats are for a Bastion or for a Winston or for a Soldier or for a Lucio or for a Mercy. And like I'm sorry if you think I'm going to hit tab and be mad at that Soldier because he's getting no kills, because I am going to be mad at him if he's a Soldier and he's getting no kills, right? Or Lucio or getting no heals, right? Like, I'm going to be wondering like why he's below 500. Like, where is he? You know, so stuff like that, and that would transfer absolutely to esports. Like, you need stats. Like, obviously, all esports track stats, and again, even in Counter-Strike, even to this day in Counter-Strike Go, we're looking at different stats differently than we did a year ago. Like, it used to be all about KDA. Now it's about assist and efficacy is what Sp0h calls it. It's kind of a blended stat, which means more because you can kill a lot of people, but those could be garbage kills. You could have already lost the bomb plant. All these different things can add up to still losing the round, which means you still didn't win the game. Doesn't matter how, like, top fragging isn't the end of Counter-Strike, right? So, and that's the same with this game. So, but they're very limited right now, right? And that's certainly
all the information is there for Counter-Strike. Yeah. The information isn't here, even if it's not displayed. Like, you could say, okay, well, we're not going to display the scoreboards in public matches, but we're going to give all the information there in a custom game so that those people can pull up the information and, you know, can expand upon it.
But even give it in a public, like, there's like Counter-Strike tracks a point thing, right? If you get a bomb plant and shit, there's points in the regular generic scoreboard. No one gives a fuck about that. No one goes, dude, your points fucking suck. Like, it's a dead stat. No one cares. No one gets thrashed for it. Right. So I think they underestimate. The toxicity that having the information will create. And will it create some? Sure. But if I think you suck, I'm still going to think you suck. If we lose and I think you were a bad Reinhardt, you never shielded, or you were terrible McCree, or you kept playing Diva and you whatever. The stats aren't necessarily going to make me not give you a little bit of grief, because I get shit all the time. Like, people talk shit. Right? Yeah. And now you do have voice chat, although your team's not really going to talk your shit. But text is there. So I think they don't need to do that. And again, like you said, maybe if it's just the competitive side, maybe it's just in custom games. But just open it up. Let me hit tab. And let me know. Obviously, I should know what stats are good for healers and what are good for supports and what are good for, tanks, etc. And that absolutely is in esports. Like, I just found today this Master Overwatch website, right? Yep. Found all sorts of information, ranks, and all that sort of weird shit. I guess they're screen scraping or they're pulling from somewhere. I don't know where they get that.
Everybody with their own Overwatch profiles. It's pretty much all the information from the profiles that are put onto there. For the most
now
part.
It's just putting it together. It's taking the data and crunch them a little bit, And
it's interesting. It's an interesting start for sure.
Because I think, especially on the esports side, you would want, and again, this would go into like the next level of cool shit. Like, if your Spectator UI had a tip pop out, wrong word to use tip, but like a stat pop out, and you've turned that on, right? And it's tracking ultimates or it's tracking whatever, and there's a threshold of like revives, and if Mercy hits her 5th revive in a map, a little pop out with a picture of Mercy and Sp0h, Sp0h's the one playing Mercy, boom, 5th fucking revive, boop. Dota kind of has those pop-ups you see during broadcasts, right? These little stat things. They're usually driven by an observer. But if you had that kind of cool shit, why not make that a tool set? Let that actually pop out, And maybe you predetermined, okay, because you wouldn't want to spam those kind of tool sets. McCree kills 10, or a 10 kill streak pops out. McCree's on 10, or I don't know.
Right.
Things like that. Again, those are stats that added into an esports broadcast wouldn't hurt at all. Or maybe they're just they're triggered, and the observer goes, "Oh, let me show that," and then it pops out when they want to. Again, like if you built the observer like a TV little production interface for in-game cameras, that would be the most ultimate thing you could do as a game developer. is really build that package to do all sorts of cool shit for not only a guy who's doing it all by himself, who might also be casting, but for a guy who's a dedicated observer who maybe has 3 of the rigs running. Right?
I think in addition to the Spectator UI, fully fledged Spectator UI, it also matters is the observers, is having not only dedicated observers, but observers who have actually kind of honed their craft. I mean, as a personality and shoutcaster and whatnot, as Scoots, I mean, you've over many years, you've been able to hone that craft. You've become very good at it, and it's the kind of same thing with the observers. I used to watch Korean StarCraft back in Brood War, so I used to watch a lot of that. And I mean, the observers are always on point, showing not only the action but also the information. The kind of behind the scenes stuff. Where people are expanding. They're always in the right place at the right time. This is the same thing with many games. In order to be successful in esport too, it needs to be very palatable to the observer. But that's not only dependent upon the Spectator UI and the shoutcasters, it's also dependent upon the observers. And you have to have really good observers to be able to capture that play too.
Absolutely.
And that's
you're getting into the again, this gets into this cost analysis of doing esports right. Like we all started years ago, and casters were their own cameramen, and whether it was Counter-Strike or StarCraft or whatever, like the guy was talking and he's on a dead guy and he's like trying not to like be on the dead guy anymore, and he's got to switch to the other guy, and he's trying to tell a story, but he's also got to bounce around, and he's got to watch the action so he doesn't sound like an idiot, but he can't really do that when he's trying to bounce around 10 dead guys or StarCraft between bases. So pretty much all esports production learned pretty quickly that you need a dedicated observer spot, like in-game camera. And the more intense that game, the more actual observer cameras you need, meaning PCs tied in as camera angles, and possibly more people to run those. Counter-Strike has at least 1, if not 2 observers at pretty much every event. A replay operator who's doing nothing but tagging replays and sending those back to production now, working with the observer, usually possibly sending them a delayed PC to make sure they get the action, because they might have missed it or only got part of it live, but they got a delayed PC going so they can catch it again if they need to.
That's cool.
Shit like that. But again, this game especially, you need multiple camera angles. Now, can one person have 3 screens in front of them, their mini map, and maybe a POV and some sort of third person camera that they just kind of move and they kind of keep the action on somebody and they keep the third person on someone and they bounce back and forth? Yeah. Is that the person that's also switching back to Jake on camera and pulling up his lower third and then going to commercial and keeping an eye on Twitch? So again, I think, and again, once you get into anyone like an ESL, an MLG, a DreamHack, Esports Arena, I imagine, Take TV, they all will have a dedicated PC spot. Like, that's going to be natural.
Yep.
I think that comes with it. The problem where that gets harder is when you try to do grassroots, smaller stuff online, smaller studios online. And that's a problem with any game. But even some of these other games, like Counter-Strike guys, when they do online shit, they're still, like, the producer is still taking their voice, and, like, the casters are not driving. Like, those casters are not driving cameras anymore, like they haven't for years. And that's good, because it's really hard to do both, right? You need to know what's on camera, and you need to ideally have actually contact with stuff that's not on camera. I'll use E-League, for example, because it's on TV right now, right? So they have in front of them screens that show what the audience is seeing, what in-game the world sees. So if they're talking about a particular player, obviously, boom, it's right there. But they also have a PC in front of them. So they can hit tab anytime they want to see the scoreboard. They can move around. They can check whatever they want. They can go to a POV of someone else, et cetera, right? So they can always have that secondary info in front of them. So again, caster wants to see what the world sees, but ideally, if he wants to also be in the game, to be looking around himself.
Yeah, I mean, in Heroes, we have slaving, so it's essentially the camera is attached to the observer, and I can pull up the stats, I can pull up the info as I please, and the viewers aren't going to see that because that's my end. Yeah.
And that's based on, like, StarCraft had that too, right? You could follow the guy around, right? And that's how so same kind of thing.
Overwatch.
So, but again, this
for sure.
But in those two games, unfortunately for Blizzard, right? Because Blizzard's probably using roughly the same kind of system, maybe, to flush out how they do spectating. Again, one thing vastly missing is a replay system and a demo system, whatever you want to call it. Yeah. Like, I'd like to not watch just my highlights. I'd like to go watch a full.
Kaplan has said it's coming.
That's perfect, because that'll help offline content. That'll help online content. That'll help clips. That'll help everything. That'll be great for all sorts of content creation and players and teams. But yeah, I think you naturally are going to need more facility, if you will, to do this game right? Just like you would with a Counter-Strike. Less so, again, against Blizzard, is they're used to this top-down kind of game. Heroes is kind of top down. StarCraft is top down. So their observer moves around the action, right? Not in the action, and not the possibility of like 3 or 4 different fronts really blasting off. StarCraft, a main battle and maybe some drops, right? Heroes, certainly. Stuff happening in the top lane, mid lane, bottom lane. But still, it's a different thing to capture, this FPS world, right? And 6-on-6 and a payload moving. Or now what helps them, and again, I think that this is an interesting debate that I would ask you guys, is this debate between the type of gameplay, right? If you play control points, you absolutely focus the ball. The ball is now the point, right? Like in Counter-Strike, the ball is the bomb, right? We always talk about it as a sport, right? Offensive, defense, you got to plant the bomb, the ball. You take the ball somewhere as terrorists. So if you look at Overwatch, well, you have offensive, defense, right? The offense has to push that payload. They have to grab that ball and run down a predetermined path. Defense has to stop it, right? The other game, and we only have one game type in Counter-Strike these days that we play professionally, obviously.
Right.
But you guys have a couple. You have 2 so far, but maybe you'll have more, right? Who knows what this game will bring? I don't know. But then this King of the Hill thing, right? The control point one. That is an easier ball to watch, right? The ball doesn't move, right? So at least if you're a producer, instead of having to worry about the payload moving and all the nooks and crannies and the different checkpoints, and even the fucking concept of how do you score that, and do you stopwatch, do you not stopwatch, all those different things go away if you just go control point. But if I understand right, it's the least preferred map type of the pro set. Is that accurate?
The Koth, are you talking about King of the Hill?
Yeah.
The King of the Hill is actually, people like that one. It's the capture point maps that people do not like in that competitive community. So the Temple of Anubis.
So they like control point, like the one. Ilios.
Yes.
They like.
Yeah, the new maps.
Yeah, those kinds of maps.
Oh, okay. Because that, to me, that also.
Those are really well received. Yeah.
Yeah, with one place to go.
We have to grab a point and then continue on. That's what.
Yeah, but Blizzard doesn't call them King of the Hill. They call them what? Control point maps? What do they call it?
They can call them capture point.
Yeah. Capture points.
Or is there control point?
I call it payload. That's TF2. Right? That's not a Blizzard term, right? Okay, so that makes me. Then I don't question it then because I agree with it. Like it's easier to watch. It's easier to produce because the action is asymmetrical, based on going to one place. Now, so that's a whole different, that's a much easier story to tell because it's much closer. Spawn points, all those things are static.
It's almost more like watching Halo, in my opinion, because I grew up watching a lot of Halo. Being a Smash Brothers guy, I used to have to watch Halo in order to watch Smash Brothers back in 2006. So there's only one stream, and I remember Halo. They're very very brawly, and when you just have King of the Hill, that forces the fight to continuously happen over a very specific area. And sure, Halo had capture the flag, and Halo had control points, and just Slayer would never work for Overwatch, I don't think.
Yeah,
but
well, and the idea of, and again, like very few esports have multiple types of gameplay.
True.
Like when you play a league match, you play the exact same way. You flip sides. When you play Dota, you flip sides. When you play Counter-Strike, you flip sides. So Heroes rotates a gameplay type. Call of Duty does. Smite does not.
Smite's one map,
Smite's one map. And this potentially does, right? It's part of the ban veto phase, right?
Yeah. Well, right now you pick your maps, and your maps end up being points. I don't think tournaments have really started saying game 1 is going to be a payload, game 2 is going to be a control point. I don't think that's a thing yet. It could be. That's how Halo was. It was like.
Do you guys think it'll get to the point where you pick one? In like pro level
You
Overwatch?
mean either payload or King of the Hill, for example?
Yep.
For like the full tournament,
Maybe.
like the tournament is just payloads, you're saying, or
Like the esport is King of the Hill.
I could see that happening for sure. I just feel like Blizzard will be very against it.
I mean, because again, if you look at it from a production standpoint, it's quite 2 different games.
Yeah.
With the same hero set.
I can see them.
In the sense of telling the story. If you peel it all back, telling the story of the competition is so much easier to do those.
But I like the storylines of like maybe Team Liquid is much better than Cloud9 at payload maps, and I think to give the depth
part of the meta
of the game that's like a really cool thing.
And what if there ended up being some sort of like capture the flag where like then Tracer became flag runners and shit, like, and
I mean, that's cool, right? But like,
I don't watch
so
enough of
hard.
the
It'd be
Overwatch
so
stuff
hard
know
to
if they're
balance it. Like, imagine a Winston just flying through the air with the flag as he just leaps and bounds with his heroic. Like, that sounds impossible to stop. So
maybe he can't fly with it.
yeah, they would have to
They
disable.
can use movement abilities and stuff, but.
Yeah.
I know
haven't
Blizzard's
watched
kind of
enough
against
Catholic
doing
stuff.
that.
I don't
too.
know if more game modes are coming, so I could be totally like just talking.
Oh,
I
no.
have no idea.
I think you could see some
would
new
add
game
more.
modes in the future.
Okay.
I think
yeah.
it's going to be largely dependent upon the competitive community, seeing if they want, is it ready to add in, if it's not, just because there's a new mode, let's say they do, let's say just for argument's sake, that they do add in Capture the Flag. Capture the Flag is the new mode. At that point, it's, okay, is Capture the Flag is this actually viable as a competitive game mode? And
sure.
if it is, great, we could add it. If not, well, okay, it needs more tuning or whatever. And it just needs to be, because, for example, the 2 CP maps, the Volskaya, the Anubis, these maps, and Hadamar, you almost never see them in competitive play. They actually they either flat out banned, or sometimes
and even after
one
they
team
fix the Anubis, right? Still no go. Like, it's just
yeah,
not, they just
people
don't,
just don't like the maps. They're too gimmicky, so that they don't. Competitive players don't like playing on them.
Okay, so the order of how the players seem to care about what maps they play on would be the 2 control point ones are least played. The 1 control point / move the payload is the second played, and then favored would be King of the Hill or single control point. Best of 3, right? Is the favored.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
I mean, they're both. I say they're both like kind of evenly.
Okay,
Depends
even.
on the team. Yeah.
Okay. So not necessarily a community likes one more or the other, but teams might favor one more than the other.
Teams just don't like the 2 CP. Is really what it comes down.
That sounds like no one likes that. But of the other two, that's more a team preference, not a community preference.
Yeah.
Okay,
Some teams seem to be a little
so
more.
there's two viable modes here then.
Right.
2 viable modes. Okay. Now, what about if? Because I would imagine like Capture the Flag would come after they did a tug of war, and they made a map where the payload started in the middle. And nobody had control over it, and you had to push it one way or the other.
That sounds fun. I'd be about that.
Is anyone Blizzard watching? You haven't thought of that yet. You start writing notes.
I don't know if it was during the launch celebration thing they did in theaters or what, but in one of the interviews I watched of a developer, they said they want to be able to use weekly brawls in the future to see if there's maybe is a mode that they put in that isn't, maybe the weekly brawl isn't super ridiculous. It's just like maybe a tug of war type payload. And people really lean to it and they really like it and think it's super fun.
Sure.
They could make that its own map or own game type.
Yeah. Well, and again, that's the crucial thing for Blizzard is to have a huge player base because, again, they're going to keep tweaking this and having fun, experimenting. And, like, the more people that play it, the better feedback they get. Pro level all the way down to casual kid who plays it like an hour a week, right? So, yeah. And again, I think that also leans to, like, it's too early to say. Like, I get asked all the time, man, especially now that I stream it. Like, is this going to be a big esport? It's going to be a big esport. I have no idea. Like, because it's not like when Counter-Strike came back and we played it and we went, yeah, it's like Counter-Strike. Oh, they keep patching it. It's more like Counter-Strike. Like, it's already got something behind it. So, like, we already knew it worked once as a game type and as a fan type and something engaging. So now it's just, like, better. I wouldn't say cleaner because maps are more cluttered. But, like, it's crisper. It's newer. So, like, that's an easy one. Like, when someone say, well, Counter-Strike Global Offensive, like, no-brainer now. This one's so different on so many levels as just a game, right? Just forget even the esports side of it as a game, like, and they're thrashing everybody else, like Battleborn, everybody else who, like, I don't think they're all getting the same kind of play.
Yeah.
And again, Blizzard's got this PR machine like no other on the planet anyway. And I think it will be a big esport. I think Blizzard will absolutely support it just as much, if not more so, than any of the other esports titles they already support. Would it eventually be a WCS and then a main BlizzCon title? For sure. Absolutely. I wouldn't see why not. I wouldn't doubt that it doesn't do ESPN or Turner stuff or, TV stuff at all. Because E-League has talked about doing more games in the future, not just Counter-Strike.
Yeah,
they've even chatted about this one. So, not in obviously a real way, but I mean,
right.
Again, like, and obviously Blizzard already has a connection deal in some regards with ESPN. So, again, I think it will be big. I personally don't get super excited watching it yet, but I get super excited playing it. So I know that something's missing, right? Because I should, and again, maybe I'm not super attached to a team yet or a set of players yet to then get that extra fandom going. Because that's also part of any sport, right? Like you get more engaged in any sport if you've got that extra connection, right? Oh, I love this team and they've got now I love, like, it does help suck someone in. Like if you love Cloud9, you start watching Cloud9 Overwatch, maybe then you start having a better appreciation for Overwatch in general as an esport, et cetera. So I probably haven't given it its just due either. But again, just what I've watched, and I don't want to blame it on the casters because again, oftentimes I don't. To me, I go way past casters. I'm watching production, I'm watching graphics, and I don't see the show yet. I don't see the excitement, regardless of what Joshy is saying or any of those guys. I actually thought some of the stuff I did watch, they had a cool little analyst desk going at Esport Arena. Didn't watch any take stuff. Like hearing Huck talk about it. Huck's an ex-pro at StarCraft, so guys like that get involved. That's good for the scene. And he's, that's great.
They did a lot of really. I was impressed, honestly, with just the
and the picture like we talked about, because you kind of have to. Yep. I still think stuff like that is jarring. You got to figure out the best way to do it because you still have a limited. And even when they try to do it in Counter-Strike, when they try to do 2 1v1s, like your eyeballs have a hard time. And if you don't do it quick enough, and the guy dies before it actually gets put together for you, and you recognize what's happening, you lost the whole moment. So you don't want that to draw away. Like we did a little bit of that in StarCraft. Like we would do drops in picture, right? Because drops weren't as important as the main battle, but you want to show that Terran doing some drops. And you can do it; it'll work. But you got it. The viewers got to be able to go, oh, that's the overview of this area. Got it. Cool. Before it goes away, right? Otherwise, you're like, oh, fuck, I missed it all. So, and again, that's just practice and figuring out what works. And I only saw it a few times. It was kind of cool. And again, like, can't blame them for trying shit at all. I think you could do that maybe in a different way if you had those, again, if you had more observers preset as actual inputs. And then you go full screen from that third person to that first person. And then, I'm third person, right? And I'm showing this whole battle and Tracer's going all around. And I'm the director and I'm like, Joshy, going to Tracer. Hey, let's see what this looks like. Let's see what this looks like from Tracer's opinion. And then I pop into Tracer and now we're bouncing around as Tracer, right? And she's just fucking going everywhere, right? Again, takes everyone upping their shit and more communication and more gear and more cameras, which means more PCs in game and capture cards and all that.
Right.
But again, this game, to show it right, I think you can't just be like, find a live guy, find keybinds on the payloads, some sort of, again, all sorts of stuff with the UI can be fixed. I don't know if we're going to nitpick today or not, but like, I want to really know that full screen. So again, if you moved everyone down here instead of up here, and we're on that soldier, right? And it's soldier. I want that guy to get much bigger or red or pop out. I really want to know that's the soldier.
Right now there's like there's a little triangle above his head.
Triangle, but I want it to be like plain as day. Soldier, that team. Like,
I mean, even with that little triangle, it goes behind all the overlays that the streams are using. So even though it's transparent, it's the most subtle thing on the planet. And I agree with you. Just having that focus and the understanding that you're watching X player, because sometimes there's 3 Tracers on one team. Who am I watching? You have to like look at the top, confirm that this is, or actually in the bottom left does show their name.
Or for Winston, let's go first person.
Right.
Yeah.
Yay.
So I think a lot of things can be tweaked there. And one thing that actually encouraged me long ago about this, and maybe they've got a pack of notes, and they're working towards it, and maybe this client we see now is actually part of that. Is I remember like, even before the first closed beta, a bunch of people got flown to Blizzard, right, for an early access. Some streamers, a bunch of other people, a lot of Blizzard fan types and streamer types, and the one that stuck out to me was Anders. And you don't know who Anders is. Anders is main commentator of Counter-Strike for the world. Anders and Semmler are like the duo. And Anders also has been in Valve's ear since the creation of Counter-Strike Global Offensive about subtle tweaks throughout the life of GoTV, which is our Spectator tool. And they actually fucking listen. And they actually added shit.
Yeah, those two are great.
And so he's got a really cool mind for what he kind of needs to see, therefore what he can helps him tell people since they can't see it, whether he shows that on screen or uses it as a tool set at home. So they flew him out there. He's not a big Blizzard guy. They didn't fly him out there because he was a Hearthstone streamer or anything like that. But part of it was to get his thought on multiplayer stuff and Spectator tools, etc. And he said he talked about Spectator tools, etc. Now, again, that was long ago. So, but I imagine he gave him a boatload of notes about this is why we do this in Counter-Strike. This is why we can draw on the map. We can follow grenades. We can follow smokes. Now, again, there's stuff you don't need to do, but there's stuff that's constantly on display in GoTV. Like I will always see what every gun every guy is carrying, no matter if I'm on him or not. Like it's in the interface, right? So maybe there's ways to do that. We already can kind of see when alts are up, and there's a variety of things that are kind of there, but they're not really there in the right way, right? And again, I think a map would do wonders for explaining, for slowing down the action. And again, I think to the caster point, I think what you have is you have a gold rush of everybody and their mother is rushing to this game, right? It's a new. First off, casting has become some sort of career, which is awesome, right?
Right.
It used to be a few people casted a lot of games. Like they had to cast a lot of different games, and then they could maybe make some money. And we've slowly, over the last 5-10 years, gotten to where there's casters who make money for each game. And some make more than others, right? Certain games have obviously full-time casters, some not so. But every time a new esport comes in, all sorts of people, qualified or not, let's just fucking call it what it is, will flock to that new title to try to get an edge, to make content for YouTube, to be a streamer, to maybe be a caster, to maybe make production, to be a team owner, to do all those things, right? It's all part of the ecosystem that grows around an esport.
Yep,
nothing wrong with it, right? So I think eventually the casters that are here now that are worthy will still be here, and new ones will come that maybe have a better skill set naturally, will come and embrace the game or be hired to embrace the game. And so that'll all grow. But I think they all need to figure out the language of the game, what shit's called, and how you call the game. And I don't think you want to call it like you call other games. I don't think you can do play-by-play with 12 people properly. It gets too confusing. So you have to go maybe a step above the minutia of a play-by-play and almost like two-color in the sense of like, the ramifications of like you could bet you back to your 1v3 and he killed, which opened the payload, which means he could turn the corner because his team's right around him. Like more not calling the action, because again, this one more than ever, the action is going to be right in front of me in some regards.
Right.
So it'd be calling special action, instead of, because if you call all the action, there's too much fucking action and nothing is exciting.
Right.
So you have to prioritize what action.
If you only call the alts or the things that lead to something cool or the things that set up something cool, then you're defining what that Hanzo did or what that McCree did or what that Diva did or that Lucio at that exact time dropping his beat. That was important, meaning he was good at it. But if you're just and the beat goes down and he drops his beat and now Mercy reses and Reinhardt he smashes. If you're just it was just verbal diarrhea, it all loses its storyline, right? And
right.
Because loud and excited doesn't necessarily translate to me as excited watching.
Right.
What if you're Korean?
Yeah. Yeah. And again, some games, like if you watch fighting game commentators, they absolutely get hyped as shit gets more exciting. That fits.
That's 1v1. That's 1v1.
But this is different. And so and again, that's not like to anyone who is doing any commentary of this game ever. But I think as a general thing, you got to figure out what you call it, how you call it, what guy A does, what guy B does, because Blizzard's only going to get so far with the tool set, right? And the rest will rely on the verbal storytelling and the audio of the casters, and then the production people and the graphics and how you feed and tell the story around the story. A nice map overfly, with stops at checkpoints. Hey, there's checkpoint here.
And that's actually a really great point you just brought up.
Those are basic. Map fly-throughs are standard in most esports in Counter-Strike. It's a little filler. The casters go, all right, it's starting up. Here's cobblestone, and it's not even tutorial, right? They don't even talk. They don't say, and here's bomb site A, and we're gonna fly over to bomb site B. You could do that for this game.
Right.
I don't know if you need to.
I think it'd be nice. I think it'd be really nice.
I think in the beginning it wouldn't be a bad idea. I mean, like E-League right now, for example, does run like a Counter-Strike 101 about the money system but again, they are intentionally going towards a TV audience. So it's not like the people that are going to do, the next Overwatch tournament next weekend are worried about grandma tuning in and what is the economy of Counter-Strike. So, but again, a nice map fly-through would still be badass. A nice graphic breaking down, your point system, all that. Yes. I think a lot. Yes. I think a lot of people doing a lot of tournaments is going to really figure out what the pros want to play, which will be a big part of it, which means maps and rule set. And because at the end of the day, the pros really should decide. And again, maybe there's not enough pros yet. Maybe there's a big debate as to who's a pro in a brand new game and who isn't. Like, I don't know the minutia. It's very easy to say who's a pro in Counter-Strike or in League of Legends. So I'm not trying to put extra weight on the pros, and maybe there's not very many of them right now. Like, there's 30 of them or 50 of them. I don't know. But like, they need to decide kind of the rules that make the most sense, right? Not necessarily Johnny Blossom's tournament organizer, right? Because they're not necessarily the same goal, right? Like, who will define this sport? The sport of Counter-Strike was defined like 10 plus years ago. Our rules have changed very, very little, right? This is brand new. So what is it going to be? And obviously there's a big debate, right? Like, I'm a big fan, again, of the single point. There's no brainer. There's no need for a stopwatch on the side. No one has to fucking do math on air to figure out who won and then realize they didn't win, but they thought they did win, so they celebrated, but they didn't fucking win. So I like that single, like, control point idea, right? King of the Hill for that. But I also like the idea of pure stopwatch, and I just explain to me, somebody in chat or you guys, since you guys have been around this Overwatch thing, explain to me why is that not our de facto? We have a timer, we have an objective to push it to the end. Why does it not track that time, properly flip it, and let me lose if I don't? Like, why is it not proper?
Blizzard they don't want it.
Ideally, it should be.
They don't want it.
Yeah,
I mean,
because then you wouldn't have the debate. If you guys would have that debate of a proper stopwatch mode, if it was in the game. And I don't get that. Like, anyone would understand that right off the bat. As soon as you explain, hey, our job is to push this. First, we have to unlock it, point one. Then we got to push it all the way over here. We have to do it as quick as we freaking can because we're first.
Yeah.
And then magically, Blizzard's going to go, big clock, 12 minutes, 2 minutes, 8 minutes, whatever. And then we're going to flip sides, and they're going to remind us with a nice little pop-up. Remember, time to beat, 12 minutes, you must hold them.
That would be great. And this would cause all of this debate to go to rest of our next topic, uniform rule sets, and how important it is. Because
right?
honestly, we're at the situation where we've talked about stopwatch quite a bit. Last week, that was a big focus on our show. So we're not going to just narrow down and talk about stopwatch, but we're seeing other rule sets essentially be born because of the lack of stopwatch being built into the game. So when you watch a tournament that doesn't that does use stopwatch, it's a little bit weird to watch that whole moment end, right? When they know they cannot win, when it does end. And Take TV actually did something really nice where they made a graphic that would pop up and say that Melty wins or whatever. It'd say Rogue wins, and it looked just like the game. So it was intuitive. It felt nice. And it was well done. And then they just cut out of the game. They don't wait for them to finish. They cut out, the game ends, whatever.
Yeah, and I get that logical side of it. It's anticlimactic once you're out of it. You're out, right? But a basketball game, when you're down by 40, you're out of it, right? Like, potentially. Like, so, and there are sports where mathematically, like, you can't catch up, right? Whereas maybe not even basketball, depending on how many points in 2 minutes left, whatever. There are comebacks, but then there are not comebacks. But I don't know if that's a strong enough reason. What do you guys think?
To not do it, you mean?
Like the anticlimactic second side versus the.
If it is, it is what it is.
It's time to beat. Like, it's a race. It's a race.
Yeah, but what we're left with is like kind of like these awkward tiebreakers and these confusing rule sets.
A lot of it right now is just coming down to nailing down a rule set. There's all these different rule sets being tested because, like you said, the game's new. Counter-Strike hasn't changed over not much over its long history, and Overwatch is new. People are trying to say, okay, some of the people from TF2, for example, bringing in stopwatch. I know that was kind of the first time I had heard of it from that mode. I didn't really play TF2, so I didn't know much about it, but it made sense. Like, okay, well, payload stopwatch, that makes sense. Trying to be the fast person, be the faster team to complete.
Because Blizzard kind of has it in there. It has half the mechanic in there, right?
Right. But it is
weird.
confusing because it's not. It's like you said. It's not displayed. It's not displayed on there. When you finish one side and say you finish in 6 minutes, it doesn't say, okay, well now the other team has 6 minutes to finish it. That option isn't in there. It's not in the custom game.
Yeah.
And I know that a lot of competitive and pro players have been really adamant about, well, that's part of the reason that it doesn't really work. Or a lot of people complain about it either not working, it being too confusing, or it being anticlimactic. And all these have some merit to it, but when you don't have it on there prominently displayed saying, okay, this guy's this team is 6 minutes, that's it. And when it's mathematically impossible, the game should end. Problem is sometimes it's mathematically impossible, but there's still a minute left on the clock. So when you're watching there's a minute of dead time, you're like, okay, well, the game's already over. Why am I still watching this? Like you said, it should just be done. The game should be over.
Yeah.
Victory screen, end of story.
But is that anticlimactic? Is that when that point of no return happens, and maybe side one thrashes side two, and they flip, and like very quickly, like your game's over because like within a minute or two they've already burned too much time and they can't do it because we would non-fucking stop, right? So is that boring? Is that a shitty second half? Or did the better team properly win and we move forward in the tournament? And would two better teams get much closer times to each other? And then therefore, when it's they've got 1 minute left on the stopwatch, it's counting down now, and they're like meters away. Is that more exciting than all they have to do is push it and it can go into overtime and all that other bullshit, and then they still got to go to a third map because they both won a side?
Well,
right?
I think
I don't know. And again, I don't know because I can't even like watch that mode properly to even know if it's up.
Yeah.
Right? Because right now it is kind of generic and you have to like time it or like, and I don't watch takes. And maybe I'm wrong. I guess my point is like it's kind of half-assed in there. So maybe it's not the right mode, but it's not even in there. Right?
If they're going to try it, the tools need to be there. That's the thing. It is half-assed right now. You're completely right. Yeah. And it needs to be. Tools need to be in there to actually legitimately try it.
And I absolutely think that the most popular esports are the ones, and the ones that'll stand the longest are the ones that the casual, the game that everybody plays is as close as possible to the game the pros play.
Agreed.
Same maps, same rule set.
Yep.
Like I'm not a big fan of pro mods and shit like that really separate, right? Or guns not being used in certain games, or cards, or heroes, or like so. Like in Counter-Strike's good like that, although Counter-Strike has modes we don't use, but like the timings and what Valve's doing is trying to bring the timings in line between like bomb timing and round timing, and those are getting closer. That's like the only thing that's different. Money's the same. Maybe this isn't the right mode. Maybe, but it just seems weird to me that, and again, maybe it'll all change in Blizzard. Like what I don't like right now is if we play one side, and I'm a casual guy, not esports guy. Casual, because again, what I want casual, I want the pros just to do better, right? We play one side and we do pretty good, right? We win our side, right? We fucking park it. We flip it over, and they park it, but it takes them longer.
Mm-hmm.
Who won? Right now in competitive, if I play competitive, right? They added that, and hopefully that's still there. That we would then go to a third one, right? And play one, tiebreaker, which is great. Yeah. Now we know, but that's still, again, and I don't want to call it like the wimpifying or anything, but like at the end of the day, and maybe it matters, maybe it doesn't matter, but I beat you. There was no tie on the first map. I beat you faster. Right? So it shouldn't have gone to, like, I want to, like, and again, maybe it's boring. Maybe it's boring sport, but I want to beat you on those maps. Yeah. Right? And how do I beat you on those maps? I do it faster. I don't get that reward. We tie, or I beat you twice. I hold, all you do, if you hold your side, you're a victor. So every side you can be a victor. But that's not really a match. A match is both sides, right? So even casual is not really set up. Right.
Even if you win 15 rounds, the first 15 rounds, there's still there'll be still a pistol round for the next one.
So anyway, let's talk about the uniform, because I know that Rachel, before this tournament, she did that tournament at PAX South that introduced this points concept, right? So what do we know about the points concept? You got points for like capturing, then you got points for like a single control point with a payload, and then you got a point for every checkpoint along the line, and then you got a point if you ended it. Is that how that worked?
I believe so. I think there's been some inconsistencies per event, though.
There have been different scoring systems. I think the one at The esports arena was you get a point for finishing, and then you get 2 points if you don't let the other team finish, and then if you're on Koth, you get a point for winning a round.
Right.
Is that true?
So basically, you need to push the payload all the way and complete to get that point. And then, but if you defend the payload, that's worth 2. And King of the Hill maps, if you win the round, that's a point. So winning the best of 3 is irrelevant. It's just about winning the rounds. But there are more points. If you get 2-0, do you get a bonus? I forget. There's all these specific rules in it. And I mean, honestly, I watched the whole tournament from VODs, and I still didn't fully grasp it, which is why I wish Joshy was here right now, because he could tell us the whole rule set so quickly. But
these are good points in your best 3, best of 5 series.
So
I'm reading your chat. Okay.
Oh, okay.
Payload and capture points receive 1 point for attacking or defending 2-0 attack.
One of the rule sets that has also come up occasionally was also a kind of a hybrid payload or hybrid stopwatch rather. I mean, the stopwatch that they have right now is the faster time wins, but the other hybrid one would be if Blizzard did implement stopwatch that it would kick it into overtime. Let's say your side wins in 6 minutes. The other team has 6 minutes to complete. But let's say the other team is completely 6 minutes is 6 minutes is up, but the other team's almost there, but not quite. It would kick it into overtime, and then you get that. So it would give that suspense.
Now that might be so. As long as you stay on the payload, you basically go into early.
I love that
early overtime.
Mode.
Yeah,
early overtime. The minute you hit your, so overtime with
and that
then actually
still gives that.
Yeah, then it would be insane.
You get that last minute. You get that last minute push. Maybe they win the next. Maybe you're not finished yet, but you still get the opportunity to win it no matter what.
But
instead of it just being mathematically impossible at that point.
But then you had to beat me in OT. You still lost, right? Because it took more time. So why did we play that?
Well, at that point it would be. You would if you're the team.
Is that like the Hail Mary to make it more exciting? Is that you get one shot? Okay, So that's the only chance. If you get one,
get one chance.
I got you.
Essentially,
if you hit a checkpoint, it doesn't do anything for you. You're on your last.
Yeah, you'd have to ride it all the way from your 6 minminutes to the end. You'd have to ride it.
That's the
and then it would be a dramatic OT. And then it would be a dramatic OT tie.
Yeah,
you couldn't win.
Could be
because you didn't do it faster.
Right.
It'd have to be a tie, and then you'd go to the tiebreaker. I think we just solved their shit.
I love that. I really do, because then that tiebreaker feels like, holy shit, we're here in a tiebreaker. It should be a rare thing at that point. That tiebreaker is going to feel like a big event, and it's going to be like, wow, what a close match. I like that a lot, Sp0h. Did you come up with that?
I guess I'd like to see it.
I don't know if I can claim sole credit. I had a kind of a rant about it a while ago, but I think ZP also had a little bit to say about that too. I'm not sure. I think there was someone who had written something about a hybrid payload too, around the same time. So
because then the clock wouldn't stop. I mean, obviously, if you're nowhere near it, and like they're on it and they run it down, then you're done. But again, just like they would at the control point. So interesting. But I definitely think, and again, I think it's fine to experiment as long as teams are willing to try different formats. Again, no esport came up with them. I mean, again, Counter-Strike's prime example. We played Hostage before we played Defusal, even when Defusal was out. And then we finally switched to Defusal years ago and obviously never looked back. But I'm all for experimenting with it. I guess I just would be interested to see what the stopwatch mode, and maybe this hybrid keeps that excitement that kind of goes away when mathematically you've lost on that second side. And again, I like to keep those stuff. And again,
because you also have to think about these modes from a spectator point of view as well. Like, what is interesting to watch?
Yeah.
Is the stop mode in its current incarnation interesting to watch? And you can argue, yes, sometimes, no, sometimes. But is that the fault of the actual mode, or is that the fault of the mode not being fully implemented? As you said before, half-assing it.
Yeah, and then double overtime has to be like Mercy Farah battles 2v2. Each team puts together.
You can have the brawl modes in there. There you go. Mode. Super Shimada Brothers, Genji and Hanzo only.
Alrighty. Well, let's actually continue on and just go over a bit of news before we move into the esports coverage, which is just going to be talking about the results from this past weekend. So there was I think it was a blue post on the forums that was incorrectly stating that competitive would not be returning until July, and there was a bit of an uproar. I know all the Skype channels and everything. Everybody was very upset to hear that competitive play wouldn't be back till July. They came back, corrected themselves, misspoke apparently, and basically they said it will be here late June. So it is June 1st today. Later this month, we will be having the competitive ladder back. We don't know what they're doing with it yet, though. We don't know. Yeah. Like it was very Hearthstone-y in the beta, where it's like a 1 month season where you grind for all these ranks that are all like the same word, and just the same.
And you have 1 month to do it.
In 1 month, and I think they're probably going to step back because the Heroes of the Storm matchmaking comes out finally in like a week and a half or so. And that's going to be just like StarCraft 2, where it's like gold, silver, diamond, bronze, masters, grandmaster.
Makes sense.
It's like a 3 month season. I think, I don't know if they've actually committed to a time frame for that. I think they said 2 to 3 months, but it won't be 1 month. Scott, if you had to pick a time frame, what would you say is good? Like just make it seasonal, like 3 months, or what?
Yeah, because I think you do need to do that reset for new players that come in, but you also have to reward those that like commit right within that time frame, whatever you decide. And I thought a month was like, wait a minute, man, this is gonna wipe like already. Like no, because again I like, will you only ever fall a certain level? Like I don't know, on a reset, like because again the idea behind the ladder is like you want to use it to separate those that really care to those that kind of care, to those that don't give a shit at all. And like the people that really care are going to really hate having to do all of this to get back to here, to play with this core group of people, because they're not on pro teams, they're not scrimmaging. They're like, this is their competitiveness, right? And like to get all the way back up there each time, to go through all of this each time, again, you have to do another ladders too. I realize that, but 3 months I guess would be a better. And again, we have to see how they redo it too, because this one was purely like win, you get 22 or whatever, and boom, win 3, you up. Win, lose.
Yeah, it wasn't based on MMR.
It wasn't based really on anything.
That's true.
Yeah,
more or less.
It was so generic, like the grind leveling of it, so to speak.
Yeah.
So it sounds like that's all changing, right? So
yeah, I would imagine so. I think the game already has MMR built in, just like the hidden MMR, and I imagine they would just roll that into the ladder.
Just no hot
Which is just confusing too, because they show your rank and it doesn't mean shit really. It's just like it's like how long you played. I mean, potentially, I guess exponentially, the longer you played, potentially you're probably better, but not yeah. I guess 3 months. Okay. Like Counter-Strike doesn't reset at all unless you stop playing, so that's different.
Huh.
But if you stop playing and you're active, they'll like freeze your rank and then you have to come back and earn your rank. But like they don't never reset the Counter-Strike ladder. They do occasionally reset. I shouldn't say occasionally. They most recently did a complete reset of like where everybody existed with their skill set.
Yeah,
like, moved everybody, but they didn't start everybody at Silver 1. They basically went, you were this, now you're this, because we fixed our shit. You're not really as good as you think you are, and they screwed it right back basically. But they've never wiped. So that's a design philosophy, right? To wipe, to make it fair, to like start the grind. I guess I'm okay with it. I don't know. Will there be, what kind of rewards do we get at higher levels? Is it worth the grind? Will it get to the point where if you're really, really good at this game, you might not be a pro and you might not do competitions, but you just do custom games with your friends like you would in the SEA scrim system or a pug system, where you just you play that next level of skill like outside but inside the system, so to speak. You don't even use their ladder system.
I hope that's not what happens. I mean, we've had that in Heroes for the last year, and it's just not as good for developing the...
It should be integrated.
Yeah. I mean, and it is an issue. I mean, I'm certainly, like, by the tens of thousands, kids play Counter-Strike outside of Valve's matchmaking system. Yeah. They play ESEA, they play SIVA, they play FACEIT, all these different pug systems.
True. Now, do you think that more people play in these leagues because there isn't an actual league in-game? Or built
Yeah, I think it's because they're that next step serious. They actually want to be with even more like-minded people than matchmaking. The servers are better. That's probably a big part of it. is the tick server. The servers are way better on the private servers than matchmaking. And it's better stats tracking on these websites. They track all your stats, all that kind of stuff. The next step, they're all attached to actual leagues, so you and your buddies could then join ESEA Open and play there if you really wanted to. Which is a stepping stone up. And so, but I don't know. Valve doesn't give a shit about people doing that to their game. I don't know if Blizzard would let that kind of client even attach to their world. I don't know if they would, because it kind of runs outside. And another thing, which we haven't talked about, I know Sp0h wants to talk about because he mentioned it in the pregame. A lot of the reason people use ESEA over matchmaking is anti-cheat client, because they actually have one that's active and live versus VAC that you never know when that guy might get VAC'd, he might not get VAC'd. It ain't going to happen that day.
Maybe it's in a pub, maybe it's in the middle of a match that's broadcasted. Has happened.
Yeah, exactly. But it's not a very intrusive system. It's not necessarily very relied on. So pretty much,
right.
And the other companies have a various degree of quality probably in their anti-cheat. Sp0h has one. ESEA has one. Faceit has one.
ESL has one too, even.
ESL has one. Wire, and now I imagine that's all part of ESEA's. So, again, they also step outside the system because it's cleaner, right? And that I guess concerns me in this game. It's a shooter. Shooters have cheaters. Right. They have aimbots. They have wall hacks. We already have in-game wall hacks, which is fine. We have in-game aimbots.
Much to the chagrin of some people,
both those, man. I like Soldier, I like Widowmaker. But, in some regards, it makes it harder to tell if someone's fucking using an outside one if they're playing a Widowmaker, unless you see their gameplay.
You get to see the kill cams at least, so that
is true. Kill cams, thankfully. But again, and I think part of it is we don't know. What we do know is VAC is kind of that's what if you're familiar with Valve's VAC engine, right. You're it might catch someone eventually. Yeah, maybe they'll get a VAC wave ban eventually, whatever. Or it might tag someone right away. And what they use, finally get caught. We know nothing. I know nothing about Blizzard's anti-cheat. And this is their first FPS. And of all other games, FPS are the most rife for cheats. Thankfully, the game costs $40. But still, if they can't detect them, and they're not active in detecting and banning, then those kids will get a lot of money worth for their $40.
There was already a ban hammer. We know that much. But
that's good.
Sp0h, we didn't actually really talk about some of the accusations that were put out last week, did we?
No, I know that was kind of something that had come up, and we never really got around to it last week. And I know that especially before a release, people have been seeing clips from specific players. The Sure4 and Timer are two of them, and people have said, "Oh wow, this can't be legit. This can't be right." And one of the things is that the competitive community in closed beta had kind of gone through some of the same things, not exactly to the same degree, but clips like that had also come up for other players, and it really sparked kind of a lot of controversy. Almost, and you could even say in some cases a witch hunt, not as bad as Reddit, but certainly there's a lot of debate and discussion about it, because it's okay, well, why are these things happening? Why does it look like these people are cheating? Because if you saw this in Counter-Strike, you'd be like, okay, yeah, this guy must be cheating or something, because it's some of these, just the way it's displayed, it's like this, it does not look legit. The thing is that the way the kill cams and the play of the games and stuff are displayed, they're not really, it's not displayed, it's not a perfect 1-to-1 ratio. It's something like a 3-to-1 ratio and how it actually displays, how the information is actually displayed. So you're not getting all the exact movements that you would. Yeah. You don't see all the exact movements in the play of the games that you would. It
looks jerky
so it looks jerky and it
snappy.
Doesn't look right.
Yes. Snappy.
So it looks suspicious, but it's really not.
Yep.
So it can be difficult to look. So if you're looking at this for the first time and you're seeing this for the first time, you're like, wow, this guy's really cheating.
I saw those Reddit threads. I tweeted some of those links, and I was like, is this fucking guy for real? The sniper guy, right? Plays for Envious now, I think. And I don't know the game well enough or know what cheats are even out there to even call him a hacker, but I was like, look at this. Is this shit going down or isn't it? I don't know. Yeah. That clip, though, damning as fuck. But in context of it, and we had this, and we still even get it in Counter-Strike, because Counter-Strike has certain tick levels too, and GoTV and replays are different than live and different than being in the server, and it extrapolates frames, and so it moves things, and it's not exactly what happened. It's just not.
Right.
Right?
You need replays to see this kind of thing.
And they need to run it at the proper tick rate and all those things. And so, in this game, obviously, we don't even play at the best tick rate, probably, let alone what we get showed back as play of the games or in our highlight reels or what people see on stream. We do have to be careful. I mean, every game has to be careful about witch hunts. And again, this goes back to the same point. Like, I don't know. I want to have faith in Blizzard's anti-cheat so that if they don't ban someone, then the witch hunts quickly stop, right? But when you're inconclusive about the developer or who's ever anti-cheat is involved being accurate, the witch hunts can fester longer, right? Because you don't have that.
Right.
Like, oh, we know this works. We know this shit gets banned. Like, most people don't cheat in the SCA. Most people get banned, right? It works. Now, it's always that game. Right? It's like virus, antivirus. Cheat, anti-cheat. Someone makes a cheat. Someone finds it, anti-cheat. Can now see it, right? It's always a battle with engines and games, right? So they're always one step behind, right? But if they're not actively trying to stay a step behind, then your FPS is fucked, right? Look at the Division. The Division is fucked. The Division got built wrong. It can't even do anti-cheat wrong now. Like, it's screwed. The game's terrible. Like, they literally can't fix their game properly at this point. It's out. And again, like in FPS, like, you have to think from day one, how do we make sure no one can fucking wall hack or aimbot? Like, those are big ones. Those are big ones, right? So, and again, I know that I'm a very limited Blizzard player myself. Been around Blizzard forever, right? But not as a player, right? StarCraft as an EG guy with players. Producing stuff.
I can't vouch and say that they've always been very good about shutting down map hackers in WoW.
That's what scares me, right? Like in StarCraft, like, map hacking was a known forever, right? Ladder and shit. So it's like, okay, you know that, like, FPS kids love, like, it's such an easier, like, it's such a self-gratifying cheat to go into this game and like literally aimbot people. Holy fuck! And as a soldier, could you imagine? Like, 'cause half the time they wouldn't know, right? And again, I don't.
Maybe that discourages people, right?
Yeah, like, again, like, you could just, like, if you were a widow and you actually had wall hacks and truly saw people all the time, you would be devastated in this game, even if you were a mediocre hacker, not just when your actual wall hack was on. So, like, and again, I just don't know. Not that I don't have confidence in Blizzard, but I don't have any reason to have confidence in Blizzard yet. Like, I have reason to not have confidence in VAC and Valve, right? Unfortunately. Now, again, when you get on LAN and we start talking about the esports side of it and people are playing for big money at BlizzCon and all that, you know, we still get people thinking that, like, Olaf Meister and Flusha are sneaking cheats.
Right.
They're sneaking cheats into the major on their mouse, right? Maybe they are, maybe they aren't, right? So, like, where money is and where competition is, cheating and or possibilities of attempted cheating or even just accusation of cheatings will come. So, to your point, we definitely have to figure out how you catch them, and so therefore how to prove when really good players are not doing it.
And you always have those really weird shots and games too in tournaments where you're like, oh my, how did he make this shot? Like, he just completely wallbang someone, and it just, wait, how did he know he was there? How did he do that? But
yeah, like a Genji, if he knew where everybody was, like, just people that move so fast, Trace. Oh my god! And again, like, they're probably out there, right? And hopefully Blizzard is like going, caught another one, bleep,
I've already seen bleep, ban posts that have happened. So.
And certainly hope that no pros try it. And actually, I do hope that if pros try it, that they publicly actually bust them, not private.
Yeah,
like, some along the way make a few examples. And again, Valve and
do Blizzard, other games do this? Do they actually publicize this? I'm not sure.
Yeah, if you're VAC banned by Valve, it's public knowledge. Like, there's a VAC list. You can be listed if you're listed.
Because, like, I know like, if you're in the game, it'll say, you know, and you're removed from a game.
Yeah,
it'll say that so and so.
I don't think there's a big board that when you go to Counter-Strike, it says, "Hey, come look at the cheater names." But, like, there is a VAC list.
Like,
I think
chain.
Yeah, and then certainly I think ESEA and the other sites do publish when they ban people. But again, that's a business doing it, not necessarily a developer. And again, I would imagine, again, I have solid faith that Blizzard makes fantastic games. And a cool thing for me is I have finally found a Blizzard game that I love, like a lot of you have loved other Blizzard games, right? Which is probably a really weird thing to say, right? But I'm not a Blizzard gamer.
You're an FPS guy, man.
I'm an FPS guy, so I wasn't. I mean, I played a little bit of WoW, played a little bit of StarCraft, played Diablo, played Little Heroes, but, like, they just never got me coming back because, again, it's not my. But I loved Blizzard for their storytelling, for their games, solid, beautiful games. Always, never had that like, oh, can't wait to play. Oh my God, it's 5 a.m. I'm still playing. This game has done that to me. Yeah, it's an FPS, but it's again, they're like when people are like, oh, it's like TF2. It is so much not like TF2 anymore. Like maybe that's what the thought was when it was being developed, and it's class based, but it's so beyond that. Now, I think you could look to how the TF2 guys broadcast that game and how they showed the same kind of game, class-based, moving objective, etc., and brought excitement to it. Again, never an incredibly super popular worldwide phenomenon in esports, but solidly entertaining. Right. I watched some matches, and I did get some of that excitement. But again, it is 2 less players even, and they're all slower players. Not the same kind of frenetic pace even with that. Yeah, Scout maybe, but you know, like it doesn't. The parallels stop after like 4 heroes, right? And then you've got like 18 more over here. So, yeah, the cheating thing though. How do you fix it? I mean,
I don't even think there is even a fix necessarily for it. I think it's just it's an arm race type deal where the Blizzard has to try and stay one step ahead of all the cheats and whatnot coming out, and it's always going to be a factor in every game. I feel like it's always going to be there, but what's up for discussion is the degree at which is to there. I mean, you mentioned Division. I don't really know much about the game. I know of it, but I mean, you mentioned that the game is in shambles because of it, and some games do get destroyed.
Console, because of this. And again, console not so much because why?
It's not even limited to FPS or RTS.
Yeah.
I mean, this can be MMOs too. People, breaking the economy and things like that. So this extends to all genres of games for sure.
I like what you said about publicly, finding a few people that were, in a high place in the community that were abusing said things and putting them down just to say, hey, look, we're going to find you if you're doing this. And it's not going to pay off. You might win a tournament, using a wall hack, but then you're going to be banned from all tournaments, period, like just from leagues and whatever. And considering that Blizzard, they're not necessarily Riot in the sense that they control like the whole infrastructure, but Blizzard is still very involved with everything.
Sure. Yeah, and they'll have a circuit. They will do their own stuff. They will help others do stuff. I imagine they'll do very similar to what they're doing with their other stuff. If not even a nice big push on this game in particular, because it's.
I would say that they would probably be a lot more involved in trying to stop cheaters and hacks and stuff like that in this game, just because of the amount of and just the investment that they've put into this so far.
And thankfully, there is a automatic barrier to the casual cheating problem in that the game costs $40. And so as long as you can't bootleg the keys and a kid can't keep getting free keys and somehow fake out Battle.net, which I don't believe you can do any of that kind of shit with Battle.net, in the sense of not having to keep buying a key, you probably won't see a lot of casual cheating. You might, and then once that doesn't happen, then a lot of the key sites will be like, don't try Overwatch, you'll get banned, use at your own risk, blah, blah, blah. It's different when you pay $10 for Counter-Strike or $15 or $7 when it's on sale. And then, again, if they slap around some pros and they make it well known that their anti-cheat actually works, the pros will all talk about it. The pros will know. And the cheating pros, or the ones that want to cheat, will know that you can't use this one, because Blizzard will nail you. And, everything's done on Battle.net. So it's not like you even play off client. So... maybe it's not a problem at all. I hope not, because again, you want you want there to be no debate that guy is so damn good, not that he might be hacking. Because again, we get it in Counter-Strike, and again, we've had hackers get busted. We've had match fixing. You guys don't have necessarily skin betting and all that kind of crap yet, but there's lots of things to worry about.
Match Steel and AZK are both playing. Overwatch.
And now you got Steel and AZK coming your way. Yep.
All right, well, let's transition over and talk a little bit about the esports events that happened this past weekend. Agents Rising at Esports Arena was the first North America LAN for Overwatch since launch, or period, if you disregard... Well, I guess they did have the open entry for PAX East and DreamHack Austin, but this was the first proper LAN with pro teams. Not everyone showed up to these LANs, mind you, because it was pay your way kind of deal. Make it to the event, and the prize pools aren't $50,000 quite yet, but still $10,000.
Right.
Not too shabby. So Cloud9 and Team Liquid, C9 did go first place, but Liquid managed to come through the lower bracket and take some games and get some points off of C9, looking pretty strong, doing crazy things. One of the things Scoots and I were talking about was the the 5 Tracer Lucio, sometimes 4 Tracer Lucio, like Zarya. It was interesting. I was really surprised to see him do it in the finals. What did you think of that, Sp0h?
The Tracers?
Like running like 5 Tracer with Lucio. Yeah.
I mean, it's interesting to see some of these certain specific comps and strategies sometimes, but I also and I know that the competitive community is also kind of split on this, is the thing with one hero limit. I think people like the one hero limit for the King of the Hill maps. Traditionally, King of the Hill has been very it's been kind of a double up on a lot of your classes type mode. But Payload has seen a little bit more diversity. You still see some doubles. Like right now, it's like the double McCree is kind of is pretty popular. Yeah, and before he was double Zenyatta or double Tracer or double Genji and so on and so forth. Double Winston, there's another one. It really, and it can make the game a little bit more difficult to balance. Maybe it makes it a little more confusing for the spectators as well when you see maybe like 4 McCrees in the match. Maybe is that really best
it's hard to watch.
Is that really good for spectating? Is it hard to watch? Yeah,
it is.
So it draws up a lot of questions. Do we stay with? Do we allow players to pick all the heroes? Do we do a one hero limit? Do we make it so it's one hero limit, except maybe you can have 2 of one class, but you can't have 2 doubles? Like how do you? There's a little bit of discussion about that and how to go about it. And I think it's one of those things that after a while, tournament organizers and players just have to feel out.
I mean, C9 running double Tracer, double Winston, double Lucio. How often on the control maps? Like quite a bit.
Yeah, and again, it does come down to a visual of like, those are the same character, who's playing that. And one thing I noticed actually when I was doing the hero stuff last year, because most of my production stuff has been shooter stuff, and not or StarCraft, which is 1v1, and done a different way. But whenever you do this kind of game with a hero, a champion, whatever you want to call that character, and a human, you have this discrepancy of calling the hero by the hero name or calling the player by the player's name, right? It's Huck playing McCree, right? But all casters will say that McCree, that Tracer, this, they'll call the hero. They'll call, and you guys do it in Heroes. You do it, they do it in Dota. They do it in League, because that's what you see, right? You see the character, so you use the character's name. But then we disconnect from the human and the actual athlete, right? The pro, right? When you're watching Counter-Strike, it's Olaf Meister. He's not the terrorist. He's not the opper. It's not so defined like that, right? So it's very easy to match, and maybe this is kind of metaphysical in a weird way, right? Like, so to the point being, when you start getting 3 McCrees running around, and you're saying the McCree and the McCree and the Tracer and the Tracer, and a minute ago that was Huck, and then that was Huck, and then that was Pook. You know what I mean? Like, so you.
I see what you're saying.
You lose, like, I never have to lose the connection that Olaf Meister is a Counter-Strike player and he happens to be playing the terrorist side of the C-type. It gets, like, it's this extra level of shit. Back to how do the casters discuss this, right? And again, then down to, do you have to lock it down to one hero, not only for the reason of gameplay, but for the reason of understandability, right? Because, and Anders brought this up when I was talking to you about what he did say to Blizzard at that very first meeting. He was like, I told him that they had to, like, you can't do free-for-all. You can't. The casters there has to be a queue system. So I know as a caster that Sp0h went from McCree to Tracer, because that's important. He can't just go do it when I'm not paying attention, right? So if he can do it anytime he wants, there's no way I as a caster can keep up with that. And if I can't keep up with that, I can't tell you at home he did that, and then therefore why he did that. 1 minute I'm like, Sp0h is the greatest Tracer in the world, man. Did you see him that last round? He was all over. Oh, and there goes Sp0h. He's now Reinhardt. Well, fuck everything I just said. It doesn't even fucking matter anymore, right? So, but again, I think this is diametrically opposed to what Blizzard wants. Blizzard doesn't want to lock it down to one McCree, one Lucio, one, like, they don't. I think they love the idea of the free flow, counter to the counter to the counter. But again, if you go back to what would make it much easier, would be dedicated heroes, or Andrew's idea was more of a spawn wave idea. So where X amount of spawn waves was also a re-rack. So, you died 2-3 times, and within that third time, if you died the fourth time, you would be re-racked to do a hero change. And then there would somehow be a graphic that popped out that you did change if you did, right? Like just part of the interface, because again, even if all of you, and again, when you're playing pro level, obviously you guys are not swapping out every death, every 2 deaths. You're running kind of.
You lose your ultimate charge too when you do it.
Yeah, and you lose your ultimate charge. But again, his point was that that is in his mind, that's a huge reason why you should be down to 1 hero or severely limiting when they could switch for the simple observation spectator side of it. Now, should that dictate gameplay? Does that make better gameplay or better spectating? And because those are not the same thing, And I don't know.
Right.
Well, there is strategy there, right? There is, when you're restricted and you have limitations as to how you can switch and, basically develop your strategy, especially when you think about payloads where maybe at one point, you're going to want to be on that Lucio, but the next point, Lucio is not going to be as valuable as a Mercy, let's just say.
Sure.
So there is strategy in almost death there at that point. But that's
interesting. And if you lock in and you fucked up, then you fucked up. Now you can look at League and Dota and go, yeah, you did. Or heroes, right? You can't change. Yeah, you fucked up.
Yeah, you're locked in with the draft, yeah.
And even Blizzard, so in one of their games, and obviously mid-StarCraft match, you can't go, convert everything from Zerg to Protoss, right? Like, you're locked in. So, but I think they like the free flow. And maybe they're open-minded to if enough of the pro scene starts experimenting with that to some sort of regulatory. Again, if you went the hardcore MOBA route and literally had a pick ban phase, if you will, that led to that lock-in, that would be even crazier.
Yeah,
I know you're the best McCree and you're the best Mercy. I'm not worried about your Mercy, but I'm banning your fucking McCree this game, bro.
Yeah.
Especially on Hanamura, man, because you are nonstop.
I think that'll be fun for an online cup that's open entry, whatever. You set the rules for that, but for the pro circuit, definitely not.
I would say that one of the things that they would need to do, they definitely need to do, is they need to add the ability in the spectator UI to actually show when when people swap heroes, that so-and-so is swapped.
Yeah.
So even if there's no restriction, it's an easier way to... Yep.
Especially for shoutcasters and stuff, saying, okay, so-and-so swapped from Winston to McCree. So you know that this person swapped, and that can be a talking point. Say, okay, this
it should be.
This team is wiped.
Right?
This guy just swapped to McCree.
Yes.
Here's how this dynamic could change the game. Here's how they might approach it.
Exactly.
It gives a little talking point as the team's setting up.
You guys are chatting about it. You're like, man, this Bastion, he was useful before, but him and the Torborn, they need to change out to a McCree and a Winston right now. And all of a sudden they change out. You talk about that, right? That is a natural. Again, it's all about Alchemist and I always talk about whatever the game is. There's a storyline. There's a storyline of a match, which is this team versus this team. And boy, last week they played each other rough. And this brand actually played each other 10 years ago in this game. There's all these different storylines. But once you get in game, what is the storyline of that match? It's offense, right? So how do you properly tell that? And again, if it's just a frenetic death match with a quasi-objective wrapped around it, it's maybe not that compelling to watch as it is to play.
I think there's a lot of storytelling in terms of saving up resources and then executing a push based on their composition or a defense, and then if they can kill that Mercy or force that Mercy to res really early into the fight. And those are the things that are going to be the narratives in the actual the pockets of the story. This translates into this much of a push, so on and so forth. But let's. I think
go ahead. One more thing. Maybe not on screen, maybe not on camera, but maybe available to a caster in the Spectator UI would be a kill feed that is more of an event feed. Or maybe that's just a toggle. So, because there's more things that happen that are worthwhile than just kills, right?
Showing, even in that feed, showing the swap, the hero swap, whatever.
People want to show Mercy
at 100%, the ult being
hero
spent.
Res, all those things would be an event. And then you could filter it. And maybe they're different colors, right? A hero swap would be, it would be a different color, so you obviously, but you could set that so it just showed, because I only care about the kill feed. Maybe it's different areas. But again, that would be,
there's a lot of options. Yeah.
Because how do you know how many people she rezzed?
Yeah, you don't.
That's true. Right? That's true. That's a really good point. I hadn't thought of it in that regard, but I would like to see that.
As a competitive player, if you're I mean, not from the spectator point of view, from a player point of view, when you're on the team and you're playing, I mean, usually the Mercy's the one calling the res, but from a spectator point of view, when you're watching it, you usually don't know. I mean, you might be able to see the balance. You might say, oh, they got a big res, or
and the most important spectator being the commentator, who would then go, because you want that commentator to go, oh, wasted her res, only got 1 out of 5, or wow, 5-person res, they are going to hold. Like, how do they know that?
Sometimes you can see it, but
if
other
you're in
times
the camera angle,
you can
see them rise up. But you would want that statistically listed, right?
Or if you're actively looking at the boxes, the player box and stuff, you could see it. But it's not something that's prominently displayed too. You want to keep when you're watching a match, you want to be directing your viewers' attention via what's going on the screen. You don't want people looking all around different corners of the screen or trying to figure out what's going on. You want an ease of information, so it makes the game easier to watch and more enjoyable.
Yeah. Now, chat's also talking about that you see players swap, but do you see that in spectator mode? They're talking about that.
I mean,
and if so, it's not very big. I guess in that sense, in the commentator world, it needs to be.
It doesn't stand out.
A nice big.
You have to be looking for it. You really do.
Yeah. It can't be a piece of text because there's just too much on that you're paying attention to as a commentator. As shit, even just spectating your buddy like in BattleNet, like it's a very busy screen.
I mean,
and again, if you moved the rosters from here to here, and I swap out, maybe it goes like boop
from
like
left to right.
My soldier icon comes out a little bit, and then it changes the widow and it pops back in. So it's like he switched.
I mean, even where it is now, it could go top to bottom.
Something.
I mean,
just a graphic little swap. Again, and I'm sure Blizzard has tons of ideas, and they'll implement things slowly and surely. I don't think any of us are like rewriting the wheel for them.
Probably not.
Right.
But I think a lot of this stuff, again, as you all beat on it, there's more competitions, there's more casting, there's more tournaments. They'll as they start doing stuff.
It'll be
interesting to see. Yeah.
Well, so Sp0h, what do you think about the results for this weekend in general? I mean, we had C9 taken first, Liquid in second. I mean, those are the top 4 teams that got top 4, so I don't think anyone's surprised. But anything from that, just based on the results we saw in beta, that's standing out to you? C9 just retaining their dominance?
I did expect C9 to win. I was pretty surprised at Liquid. Not that Liquid's a bad team. I think they're a good team, but they had been kind of shaky in offline results, in online results. They've been a little bit shaky, and they had just replaced
2 members. So
I was like, well, I was kind of expecting Gale Force to be in the finals of C9, really? But they had a really strong showing, and I'm happy for them. They did great. I think both those teams did great.
Yeah, they got to be happy as an organization, just in general, like coming out, because like we were even talking about it last week, or like we don't really know where Liquid's going to land in this event, but I think the whole crew's got to be quite happy. On the other side, over in Europe, we had the Take TV, the Takeover, going down, and Creation, I think a lot of people's favorites for that event, lost to Rogue. And my boy, Reinforce, going in strong. He actually observed Heroes. He actually has been the primary observer for Heroes for a while. Now he's going back to his FPS roots, and they took him that first place.
Yeah, it was a pretty interesting tournament too. There was a lot of great games between both of them. Took a little while to catch up. Like it was kind of hard to watch both at the same time. There was a lot of Overwatch, but so definitely a lot of content for people out there who wanted to watch some high level play for sure.
Are there any matches you would suggest yourself that were like your favorites to watch?
I liked. Let's see. Wow, I have to think about that one because
Okay.
there were a few really good matches. Get back to me on that one.
I liked the C9 Liquid final a lot myself, but I've also been a big fan of that rivalry to the point where whenever I make my graphics, it's always been Team Liquid versus C9. It used to be Evil Geniuses, but Evil Geniuses don't have players in any of the esports I care about anymore. I mean, even PP doesn't even like play Melee anymore, man.
Man, I don't even know what's going on over there.
Yeah. Well,
I'm not there anymore. It's by Jake. Sorry.
I know. It's all your fault, man. Thanks. Great job. But go ahead.
I mean, is it also too early? And this is not to demean anyone who's playing this game at its highest level, but is it also like too early to
invest?
Not invest.
Scoots.
I don't know how to phrase it. Like, because you want to take it seriously
course.
quickly and early.
Yeah.
But like, is it too early to worry about the meta and who did what? Because these guys just got the game back. They're just starting to play. So these particular tournaments maybe don't necessarily mean so much. Like, you just like when you say fluffy things like getting Liquid back to their dominant form or C9 back to their dominant form, I'm like,
right,
come on, dude, the game.
It's like, the game, period of time here. It's not like it's been 3 years, right?
Turn the Blizzard hype down a little bit, Jake. All right, come on, bro. You're not talking about Nip right now playing yet. Now again, these guys are good. There isn't. Again, what
fair.
makes a good esport is a skill gap between guys like me and guys like them, and this game has it. That's one thing I haven't mentioned today. Like, that's what makes a good esport is like
you can carry.
You and I can play basketball, but we can't go in the NBA. And this game definitely has this gap between coordinated team play and non-coordinated. So in that sense, it'll be an esport. Like there is, like to me, some games are like, well, any fucking guy can be good at this game, so therefore the gap's not big enough.
Right.
This game, I think, just watching guys like Seagull play, like on their stream, I'm like, oh, yeah. Again, like watching top Counter-Strikers, Oppers or whatever going, yeah.
Right.
Big difference between him and I. You're playing the same game.
And you can at the same time, you can appreciate their shots. Yeah.
That's what makes me really excited about this game is like that. Because I also didn't know. I'm like, okay, will it be spammy? Will it just be too easy? And it's not. Forget like what competition you're playing and who's not swapping heroes and who should. But like just the game, as individual hero-wise, has really nice skill levels to the heroes themselves. It's good shit. Yeah. So yeah, I'm just saying, like, can we not like blow these guys?
Those results are pretty damn good, though. They've been doing pretty well.
Yeah, but like that particular tournament half the team were brand new. Like it was an open tournament. Like that's not the games came out.
I mean, those teams most people expected those teams to.
And again, and I'm all for like the teams like getting sponsored earlier. They're earlier better for the teams like Liquid, C9, Luminosity, NBS.
I mean, you're right. It's very early on in the Overwatch scene.
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
these pros might be long since shitty in a year, right? We don't know.
So we'll see what where it is in 3 months, 6 months, a year, certainly. But it's somewhere to start. I mean, a lot of esports, even just transcending esports, sports in general, is about the storylines of the people and the players and the teams. Yep. And this helps give a little background, even if it isn't much. And even if we don't put a lot of weight on it, it still is.
And again, they are better than all of us. I'm not saying they're not the pros of what is the pros right now, for sure.
Right.
And again, what I do like about this game,
I do understand that. I agree.
And Jake, you mentioned it earlier. Like this game has brought together a nice variety of genre gamers to a new game, right? Like.
You think about World of Warcraft players. I mean, Sp0h used to be involved in WoW. People
like Quake players are playing Dahang and crew. Hawk is commentating.
You got
so it's kind of neat.
T-Squared from
T-Squared. So it's kind of neat. And obviously, Josh, he comes from the StarCraft world and then the Blizzard world and now Overwatch. Fish sticks are everywhere. But yeah, it's attractive. Look at the streamers that are loving this game. Like guys like Summit can't stop playing it either, and Lyric, and like it's grabbed a lot. It's a really, really fun game. And again, I think it definitely has a potential.
Well, the fire character comes in the game where you can burn yourself, right?
My favorite character in TF2 is Pyro, so bring it. Yep. Give me a Mei that shoots fire, and I will stop playing
Scott,
Lucio forever.
If you dig through some of the artwork, there's this little dude in a yellow suit, like a hazmat suit. I'm like certain he's like a poison version of a Pyro. If I had to put money on it,
he was supposed to be Roadhog. I think it might actually be an early version of Roadhog.
I think they kind of blew
really?
like
maybe. I'm not
with
sure.
That, the Mei has the skin that's the
maybe I'm wrong.
I'm so disappointed.
What's the name of? He's got the fireman skin.
Fireman.
Not the lore master, so maybe not.
The one that's named after the TV show, right? Yeah. They should have turned into a flame. They should have really gone for it. Like how Hanzo's like ultimate is a wolf and all that for his like super skin. Like she should be shooting fire, and her wall should be a wall of freaking flames, man. How cool would that be?
That would be cool, but it just doesn't make sense because you can't stand on a wall of flames, so that's kind of hard to make.
Sure, you could.
Intuitive.
Well, it's a box on fire.
Okay, there we go. I mean,
Rescue Mei. Thank you, chat. Rescue Mei for Rescue
Me. I want to see a pirate version of Torbjorn. I think there's a pirate Bastion, but I want
a pirate
Torbjorn.
There is. There's Blackbeard Torbjorn.
Why isn't his turret a cannon? That's what I don't understand.
It's like dual Mustang.
But he has a special hello emote though. He says "Ahoy, mateys" when you say hello. Sometimes.
Actually,
that I think is amazing.
The wolf Hanzo has other quotes too. He goes, "Marked by the wolf."
Yeah.
Ah, it said the dragon. Okay, all right.
Yep. Anyway,
That was my
amazing.
Hanzo voice. I hope you liked it. Sweet. Well, obviously the first lands. I mean, I think there was something like 43,000 viewers at one point, and for a new. I mean, yes, it's a launch
Nice.
event, but for something that's not Blizzard, Blizzard run by other organizations, I think that's an impressive number.
Was that both events combined or one or the other?
That was the grand
Arena?
finals for Esports Arena. Was around
Nice,
43K
Cool.
viewers.
That was at actually. When was that? Was that like a?
That was like game 3 during the grand finals.
What time though was it too?
Like 11:30 PST. So that was like 2 a.m.
Yeah.
Eastern, and Europe wasn't there at all. Europe was about to wake up.
Yeah.
So that was
Nice.
really,
Good.
really impressive. A viewership right there. I think everyone's got to be impressed with that. And obviously with organizations like TSM actively recruiting for a team, that's why. When you see numbers like that, when you see a subreddit that's already at 330,000 users on that subreddit, when like you've got Counter-Strike at like what, 380 or something, or 360, like that's crazy that it's toppled every Blizzard title except for Warcraft, and it might have toppled Warcraft at this point. I don't even know.
Yep. I mean, it's incredibly. I mean, I would be really interested to know how many boxes they sold so far, because it's got to be insane.
I'm sure
the numbers.
Yeah, I'm sure the
which is great, which only helps the esports side of it, for sure.
But yeah, I mean, there's going to be a lot more cool stuff to come in the future, but it is indeed time for the shoutouts. WoW is only at 272,000, so it's already the largest Blizzard subreddit. Look at that. Maybe Hearthstone's bigger. I don't know. Sp0h, take it away with the shoutouts, man.
Okay. Well, you can follow me on Twitter and YouTube at Team Sp0h. I post raw scrim VODs, montages, other stuff on those. So you can check those out. I also stream on Twitch at Sp0h TV. I haven't really been streaming Overwatch lately, but we'll see if I know, right? I'm having problems with that. I don't know if I don't really have the computer for it. Get some new parts. I'll have to do that. I'll get on it.
All right, man. Well, Scoots.
Shout outs. Thanks for having me. It's great to talk about Overwatch. I usually talk a lot about Counter-Strike and other stuff, so nice to talk about this game. I'm streaming about 5 nights a week. I am streaming a lot of Overwatch. I also have a Vive, so on Fridays I do some Viving on my stream with the HTC. It's also a crazy cool thing. It's fucking crazy, dude. Like, yeah, I'm loving it. It's so next. It's fucking insane, man. And there's good experiences, great experiences, and like weird ones. But like this thing's fucking sick. There's no doubt about it. Like, it's so immersive, and some of these titles are, like, again, esports wise, like, I want to like be in the game. Let me sit in Kings Row and watch a fucking esports match happen around me. That kind of shit
would be cool.
Man.
Watch a Dota match and shit. You know, like there's a Dota little thing. And anyway, it's really, really cool tech. So I stream that every Friday. My show's called Scoots in the Dark. I'm gonna do a blatant advertisement. There's my logo.
I love it.
My favorite heroes, Lucio. There's my boy Lucio.
That's pretty awesome.
Now, for anyone that follows me regularly, a lot of the reason I've aspired to like level up my production game is it's all him. He's just he always makes me look bad.
Jake and I go way back. Yeah. So yeah, that's it. Thanks for having me, man. Keep doing your thing, man.
Yeah, thanks so much
Good
for coming
luck
on.
with your Overwatching. My pleasure, man.
Yeah. Well, for me, guys, I will be flying to LA tomorrow, casting the Heroes regional event happening at the ESL studio. So if you're actually attending, say hi, because we have a live audience for ESL the very first time. Oh, Lucio, right in the dead center. He got him. Perfect. I will be casting some Overwatch very soon, so stay tuned for that. I've actually got some announcements on the way. Not ready to give them out yet, but that is, I guess, the next adventure for me. And as always, just follow me at SelaJakeGG on everything. Best of luck to Joshy on getting everything sorted for him. I'm sure he'll be back with us next week. And Scoots and Sp0h, thanks for the great show.
Yeah.
Peace.
Thanks for having me.
Hi there.